Welcome to ETOA's Showcase Outbound India 2026 webinar on visa facilitation, rhetoric and versus reality. My name is Tim Fairhurst from ETOA, and my job today is to introduce the topic, but primarily the opportunity today is to hear from two experts in the field, Guldeep and Nihal. So I would like to invite both of them to introduce themselves briefly, and you will be hearing more from them later. So Guldeep, may I invite you to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Tim. My name is Guldeep Sahani. I am the Managing Director of Weldon Tours and Travels Private Limited, New Delhi. I am the founder president of the Outbound Tour Operator Association of India. I am the co-chairperson of Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industries called FICCI, and I'm also the executive committee member of PATA India.
Thank you. And Nihal, over to you.
Hi, good afternoon. I work for a company called Trailblazer Tours India. I look pan-India, the MICE movements. Ever since I have joined the travel trade, the MICE has been my forte, and I'm servicing to all the corporates, everybody, and all over the world, including you. For everybody, any company who are doing, almost the 60 to 70% business goes to the Europe, whether it is FIT, luxury FIT, and we look after for that.
Thank you very much.
I'm the Senior Vice President, Business Head for the North India as well as for the Middle East subsegments. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So I think between you, you've really got a very good handle on the outbound market and the opportunity it represents from leisure through to the MICE industry. A little bit of housekeeping. You may have noticed my colleague Aaron, who was actually in India last week at OTM Mumbai. He is driving the slides, and I'll ask him to switch to the next slide so I can introduce ETOA a little. I'd like to draw the audience attention to the live Q&A button, which should be somewhat towards the right of the center of the bottom of your screen. So if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to use that. Please keep the questions as short as possible, then it's easy for us to read them as the session progresses. So I'm going to talk a little bit about ETOA's membership and purpose for those of you who are new to us. And then I'm going to get into some work we have done recently on the perceptions of visa facilitation for European markets, both from Asia generally, but more particularly from India. Once I've set that landscape, then I shall be inviting our panelists to answer some questions, and we'll get into a discussion from there. So without further ado, let me talk a bit about ETOA's membership and purpose. We are present around the world. We have operators who sit in any country that sells Europe to the travel trade. We have inbound operators sitting in Europe with all the supply chain, value chain, and destination managers. So there's a good link between outbound operators in source markets around the world, be that North America or Asia, and their counterparts in Europe. We have an extensive range of partnerships, so that helps us from a lobbying perspective in Brussels, but it also helps us work with colleagues around the world. Lots of trade associations are making common cause to make sure that the cross-border travel that we all want to happens seamlessly, and we're all on the same page when it comes to what good facilitation looks like. Primarily, ETOA is a commercial network, and obviously visas are there as a way of facilitating commerce, so whether that's a business traveler or a leisure trip. And we were just recently at OTM in Mumbai, and we attend events around the world, really to make sure that we're offering a bridge between operators and the supply side in Europe. Among other things we do is we provide a lot of information and insight via our website and through one-on-one member support. And my role with ETOA is primarily to do with external representation in terms of advocacy and lobbying in Europe. So the background to the Schengen visa code and the way visas operate for the UK and Ireland is something that me and my team work on. And it's very timely that we're talking about this particular topic given the fact that EU is focusing on the value of inbound tourism and has recently issued a new visa strategy. Next slide, please, Aaron. So there has been growth in long-haul tourism. What is new is that it's now been expressly indicated as a political priority for the European Union. 2 weeks ago today, at European Tourism Day, Commissioner Tzitzikostas declared an express intention to grow the current 20%, more or less, of the international tourism in Europe that comes from outside Europe. That number is to grow. That is the plan. There will be a new EU sustainable tourism strategy that covers all aspects of sustainability, but thinking about the economic sustainability, one of the key features of that we want in Europe is year-round business. And that's where our friends in Asia come in, because a lot of your peak travel happens outside European school holiday time. There's recently been an EU-India trade deal signed. That's mainly to do with goods and services, not tourism as such. However, it is expected that that will be a catalyst for more mutual interest from the business community. Business travel is known to be a catalyst for inward investment, for curiosity about leisure travel. There's lots of leisure travel happening. So it's only a positive thing if the mutual economic interest is recognized. Tourism generally flows from that. There is a new EU visa strategy. It was issued the week before last, and it is stressing what can happen if we have a fit-for-purpose visa policy in Europe. There are really three main pillars. It's strengthening the EU security, it's boosting prosperity and competitiveness, and making sure that we use modern tools. So we will expect, and it's certainly been the stated intention from the European Commission for years now, that there will be more digitalization, but hopefully the progress will accelerate. And by 2028, we should have a visa application platform which feels very much more like a one-stop shop than the current arrangement now. We expect there to be more use of MEVs, longer validity generally, and more harmonization between the issuing states. And there's been very explicit recognition of the value of business travel. People want to make sure that's fast-tracked and simplified where possible, particularly among verified travelers. And this is all part of Europe attracting talent as well. So visas for people to come and live and work in Europe are also within scope. So in short, this is a promising context for this discussion. On paper, there is plenty of opportunity from economic growth as the population in India and elsewhere in Europe's source markets grow, and as economic conditions put international travel within range of more people. However, we do know that there are competitive pressures. Europe is not cheap. It's not necessarily easy to do business because of complexity. Some of that is attractive. It's all part of the fragmentation and variety of Europe, but it does add complexity. Is the service level what it needs to be? And the reason why we're here today is visa facilitation. We know that is an instrument of economic growth if it's done well. It can also have a deterrent effect if it is not done well. We know that visitors, be they MICE or leisure, they have options. They could go to Australia, the United States, or Europe, or Central Asia. Europe needs to make sure that it's presenting a professional and friendly and welcoming face and has a process to suit the 21st century market. So I'm now going to walk through some numbers that ETOA has collected over the years, just to give a sense of the type of work we've done. So you'll be able to study these at your leisure later, but if you can see, there are some blue columns and green ones, and the blue ones represent the overall perception of visa facilitation from Asian markets to Europe, and that was taken in 2025. So you can see an improvement from the shorter columns in green, which was in 2022. So shortly after the pandemic, and we know that it was taking a long time for demand to return. Airlift was not necessarily there. Perhaps the investment wasn't there. So it was welcome to see that by 2025, there was a marked improvement from the period immediately after the pandemic. But if we go to the next slide, please, and we took a snapshot early last year of what the general perception was of European visa facilitation in Asian markets, particularly China, India, Indonesia, and the Philippines. And the higher the column, the better the perception. So the more respondents thought that the European country in question was doing a good job with visa facilitation. And on the left, you can see a similar group: France, Switzerland, Spain, UK, all generally near the top. And the average, so the orange line that's going from left to right, is a little bit over 50%. So that was the broad snapshot of overall perception, Asia to Europe. Compare that with the next slide, please. The red line going across is now significantly lower. So what you can see is that it's approximately, or a bit under 30, whereas it was 50. So that's only, well, a little bit less than half as good as it was in some respects. Switzerland, France, UK, Spain, still the top four. So that does sound as though whatever it is those countries are doing, whether it's investing, using higher service charges to make sure that they've got the service required, but the spectrum is very broad, and all the way off to the right, for example, second from right is India, not doing well in the perception of the Indian market currently. I must stress this is an interim result. So there's a QR code you can see on this slide. We'll share that again in the last slide towards the end of the hour we have together. But if you would like to express your opinion, and you've not yet completed this survey, you'd be most welcome to do it. So if you've not yet taken a snap of that QR code, I'll just wait a little bit to give you time to do that before we move on. But the news is that going by our preliminary results, Europe appears to have a little bit of an India problem insofar as the perception of European visa facilitation in India only is significantly below the perception from all Asian markets that we took about a year ago. So either something has happened or we happen to have a response group who's had a particularly negative time, but it's certainly a catalyst for looking more closely at this. Next slide, please, Aaron. So what were the broad findings of that survey? So the top 5 factors that respondents said had a deterrent effect was the application window. It could be longer, it could start earlier. Second thing was the type of supporting documentation and evidence required. The third thing was the requirement to present in person, and we know that currently that is a requirement for biometrics. Fourth problem was the reports of high rejection rate. So it's really a reputational issue there. If people think it might be a problem, maybe they don't get involved. And then the fifth thing, the cost of travel and the time to obtain a visa. So to note, the actual cost of the visa itself is not among the top 5 concerns. What was mentioned in more detail in terms of what was the problematic documentation, proof of financial status was considered the most problematic, followed by proof of accommodation bookings in destination, followed by evidence of intention to return. A lot of this will probably be very familiar, in which case the survey is accurate. If you don't agree, especially if you don't agree, please complete the survey so we've got a good rounded response. When we asked what would improve the process or the service, top of the list was more appointment slots. Second was more digitalization, for example, in the online application process and the electronic visa. Third was to make multiple entry visas easier to obtain. Fourth was longer duration of visa validity. And the fifth was to make it easier to provide biometric data. And to illustrate the deterrent effect I mentioned earlier, this is really where Europe's competitive position needs to be properly understood. If it's not possible to come to Europe, or it's just looking too difficult, mostly people go on another long-haul holiday to a destination with easier or no visa requirements. And that response is framed very much from the leisure client perspective. And Nihal in particular, I know, will have some comments to make about the MICE business and how visa facilitation is influencing choice of destination. The second option, if people don't get the visa they want, is they go on holiday domestically. And the third is they go on holiday within the region. But the key thing is they will travel. So this is not a question of people staying at home and just being a bit sad they can't visit Europe. They will go somewhere else. And for every visit that people go elsewhere, there's a geometric loss, because they will probably have a good time in the other place, tell their friends, and then it will be repeat and referral benefit to that alternate destination rather than Europe. Next slide, please, Aaron. No, sorry, the next slide actually will put up at the end. So we're now going to stop the presentation because I've now done the introduction, and there's been plenty of chat from me. So what's going to happen now is I will first turn to Guldeep with some questions, and then go to Nihal. And once we've explored their responses, there will be an opportunity to take questions from the audience. So do use the live Q&A. But Guldeep, we've had an opportunity to speak once or twice before today's session, and I was very mindful that you speak from 40 odd years of experience watching the Indian market develop. You've mentioned countries such as Australia as one of your current picks for service standards and turnaround for visa facilitation. And we've just seen in the data I presented that the market view of European visa facilitation is mixed at best. So thinking about the opportunity that India outbound presents, a few questions for us to explore. So how do you think Europe is doing in terms of the range of visas offered, dialogue with industry and strategic thinking generally? Perhaps how would you characterize the Indian travelers of today? And does Europe understand what they want, and how Europe features in the minds of prospective Indian travelers for their travel options? So Guldeep, over to you and welcome.
Thanks, Tim. So before I answer your question, I want to look at, I generally go into these nitty-gritties of what does this means over here. So I was looking at the meaning of rhetoric in your this event that you caused, and I was looking at the meaning of rhetoric in Oxford was language designed to have a persuasive or impressive effect, but which is often regarded as lacking in sincerity or meaningful content. I thought I had a little bit of a laughter over this, as it were. That's so much precise that we are talking about. That maybe in some cases like that. Yeah. But coming back to your question, there are two ways of dialogues. So one dialogue is through Indians counterpart, like we have VFS. There's a dialogue between VFS and Europe through between India and Europe through VFS, and the other one is directly with the embassy. So, uh, so what do I think regarding Europe? I would say is that there's a range of uh, visas that they have. They offer. They offer short-term visa. They offer transit visa. They have long-term visa. So range is okay. The range that they offer. Uh, they should now start thinking beyond what they have been thinking in the past. In the past, Europe, whenever we had dialogue with any European mission or any organization, they always came from the past of what Indian have been. Indians have been in earlier, there was a desire to go and settle overseas. That desire is almost now finished. It is almost negligible. It is there. I won't say it's not there. In some parts of maybe Gujarat and Punjab or other states, it may be there. But most of the Indians are doing quite well. And I don't think so that past should be in the mind, and that should be kept, that the main thinking that Europe should have while working in India. So how do I think Europe is doing in terms of the range of visa offered? I've told you, dialogue with the industry definitely is not there. I am very impressed this time that ETOA has taken over, that they should start this dialogue and start some brainstorming over this. And then, Tim, especially you, the way you are, you've been sending me mails and the thoughts are going and they're opening up for me also. I was earlier speaking from aggression, and I was upset with the way they dealt with it. But now I am now calmed down that, the thinking is happening and we have to think out of the box. And that is what we are doing. So the dialogue between the missions which are here, and because there is no one body which interacts with the industry, there are, like, Switzerland does a regular visa dialogue with the industry. They have a list which they have, and they invite people from that list. Surprisingly, I didn't figure out in that list 3 years back, but now for the last couple of years they invite my company also. But that's a good dialogue process. At least they listen. But when I'm talking about rhetoric effect to it, they do come with the past in the mind. They do come with suspicion. They do come with this thought of out integrity. We have to now go beyond that to see that people are now already with high integrity, with high thinking. They are thinking beyond what we used to earlier think, and that will generate numbers. That will generate the ease of travel to those countries. Like Nihal was talking last time, the movement of 200 people or 300 people, and if they don't get a visa, or even if they come to know that a embassy or a country is harsh in giving visa, they will point blank refuse. They say, we don't want to go to that country, we'll go somewhere else. We will go where we are welcomed. So the first point of contact is visa when it comes to, and when they experience harshness, they don't want to go to that country anymore because there are many more options available for India. So strategically thinking, I think the strategy should be now generating high integrity, high volume numbers with more HNIs, with more above middle class people. That strategy should be brought in now rather than the past. What is that? It has been.
So I think what you are saying, if I may, is that there's a risk that, well, what you did say was that Europe should not look in the past, but look in the future and recognize that it's a sophisticated market, that people have options, and that there's a lot of integrity, particularly among the business community. You know what the requirements are. You're going to manage your clients well, so you're solid partners for Europe to plan proper business with. And I think that has been recognized in the EU visa strategy that's recently been published. I don't know if, Aaron, you're able to share that in the chat, but for anyone who's curious to see, we'll just publish the press release that was issued about 10 days ago or so. And I think at least the rhetoric of that, to go back to the sort of language performance, the rhetoric is good. It recognizes that there is a proper market there. It should be treated as a proper opportunity for all of the visa requiring markets around the world. India is the biggest. Well, there's China too, but India is growing fast. It is a happy coincidence that there's a high degree of English competence, which makes business communication relatively easy for many. So this does feel like an opportunity we should seize. And I think, if I may, I will turn to Nihal now, and we'll come back to you, Guldeep, just to get into some practicalities of really what happens if the visa process as it stands now is not providing the service people need, and what determining effect it will have on business choice. So Nihal, if I could turn to you. MICE, as you said, I think when we last spoke, you told me it was 8% or so of your business. And some of the groups that you are sending from India to various destinations in the world can be large. And In practice, you may not know the names of the individual travelers until, for example, June before intended travel in September, because perhaps they are the recipients of a sales incentive competition which runs from the beginning of the year to the middle of the year. So your corporate client won't know the names of the travelers until a few months before travel. We know that in theory, the Schengen visa code prescribes similar service standards, doesn't matter which issuing state, but we do know that the reality is different. Our surveys tell us that. All the conversations we have with operators in India tell us that. And it's not least because different issuing states charge different service fees, so they've got a different budget to invest in visa facilitation centers. But it is having an impact. So how significant, in your view, is the quality of visa facilitation in your choice of destinations or recommendations you're making to clients?
Hi. Generally, what happens, because where Mr. Guldeep has left, I'm just starting from there. Whenever it comes to a MICE destination, specifically I'm talking about Europe here, the first two things comes into the picture. First is how is the connectivity, and second is how we are going to get the visas, and how we will get the Schengen visas done. Because I have been every year, they generally give their channel partners or the employees new destinations, so they have to keep on changing. They have a big budgets which I am talking about, and they keep on changing the destinations. So at one point again, so my this thing is like, if you have seen last 2 years, Indigo has gone to the 7-8 points in Europe, and then Air India has also started 7-8 points in the Europe. Otherwise, we have to just wait for the national carrier. But if we are getting any national carrier over there, then it happens like that is a gateway. Now the second thing comes to the picture, like if we are doing what is there. So we are going to suppose I say Indigo introduces us Copenhagen. So now they wanted a gateway, like people just after the pandemic, there were many European embassies which has welcomed many delegations. The dialogue which Mr. Guldeep was talking about, the dialogue, I can name many embassies who have called us. The ambassador as well as the head of the visa consular has also come in. Maybe when I was talking to you last, between that and this, there are two changes. That last year we had a very a bad situation arisen from the Greece embassy. I'm just talking about that country. But this time I have met when the Indigo and the Aegean Airlines have launched their flights, 10 flights in a week to their particular destination. So the head of the visa consular met me in the embassy, and she told me that there is a problem which is going on globally, but you have to give me 7 to 10 working days and all the problems will be solved. So that is a very big step. What I am talking a week back before the OTM, now after the OTM, when I have gone because they have launched the flights, and she actually came to me, she gave her business card to me and said that we have to carry this dialogue forward, which which Mr. Guldeep has said, no way. If I keep on writing the emails, I keep on doing the things. So coming back to, it is a very important how the gateway would be. Like Switzerland, France, they conduct the workshops every year in the respective embassies, and there are many other Scandinavian countries out of those also are doing. But the Eastern Europe, where the people generally, what happens like in the MICE, there are incentive groups and there are conferences. Incentive groups will be always 6, 7, 8 nights, so they will be having 2 or maybe 3 countries, but the conferences will have only one country. So there you don't have the choice. You have to go to the one country. So they will always ask me, okay, just tell me. And the second thing is the lengthy visa. The lengthy visa, I will never forget that I have got the first time lengthy visa from French embassy, and then followed by the Swiss embassy, and then the last 2 years, the Spanish embassy has been doing very good, which used to be a nightmare if you get a group to Spain. But these are the improvements, but keep on including. But the thing is, we have to announce. Now the thing, I'm just listening wherever I'm going for the corporate meeting. People are asking about Croatia. People are asking about Romania. People are asking, but I am unable to crack through if I go to Croatia. There's a big example. If you look at the VFS Facilitation Center, Italian embassy has not even opened their slots, which was the same case with the Greece, which we discussed. But since last 2 years, they have not opened the slots. Always we are getting, and then the thing is, this is a gateway for the cruises. The cruise market has actually shattered during that particular time if I am not getting, because people pay advances 1 year in advance, and 6 months before if they are applying visa and we are not getting that visa. So that is the main issue. And always one thing we remember, whenever I go to any corporate, any destination, we follow, like you are telling me what all you have to do, what all I have to get the visa. First thing is that I have to have a dialogue between us and the client as well as the consular, that these are the people who will be going in this month and things like that. So that is a separate this thing. But whenever it is coming to the visa facilitation part, you have to have those MICE appointments all over India, because now everybody is connected from the 8 9 cities. The Middle Eastern carrier who takes you to the Europe, it is connected with the 8 9 cities. So we need to have those particular facilities. And every time I am very happy, because once first time when the MICE movement went from India to Prague, that is Czech Republic. So I was the person, and you have to go through many checks, because you have to print the immigration form which you have to give after landing. But they did everything, and then they facilitated that this is the place where you can come along. And many a time they have said that okay, these, and then back to back those things have started. Then the adjoining countries have started. So that way it generally happens. Similarly, the case with the Hungary also. When they initiated it, it was they were having a similar hiccups. But I generally go and say to them, if I am getting a chance for the dialogue, that we as an Indian or as a MICE movement thing or as a company, we respect the law of the land and we take those particular things forward. So whatever it is there, you just tell me what is the checklist, and I have to take all the boxes, and then I have to apply. So that way it happens. So we come to the conclusion when we have a dialogue. But if there is no dialogue, then it can't. There is a success story. You can see that France, French embassy, Finnish embassy, Swiss embassy, and many other embassies, which I'm just not forgetting the name. But again, the airlines have started the seats. You can just imagine 7 points of 260 people in economic class and 50 people in business class. That people, they have, though they also have to fill the flights. So one day, even if you look at the 1 day or 2 day, how much we are losing on that particular part. Even I went along with the introduction of many flights many a times, and I have taken my clients also. But if I'm taking 12 top end clients who are giving me big numbers, and after those 12 clients, I have to take three visas, three countries visas, because they have to travel to the other country as well. So I didn't got the appointment. I have to get it from some other embassy, depending on the state. That's what I'm telling you. And we respect the law of the land. That is.
Come on, Lele.
So I think what I'm hearing so far is that the smart embassies or the smart issuing countries, and just to speak to both Guldeep and Nihal's point, are treating the Indian market with an open mind, with an enterprise mind, and with respect, so that they're understanding there is opportunity and it makes sense to work out what you need in order that you feel reassured that your big conference or a multi-country incentive trip will go well. Because as I understand it, your clients will involve global multinationals who have a big footprint in India. So it'll be international companies as well as Indian companies.
UK is the success story for that. So which we have discussed that Mr. Guldeep, when he was the OTA president, he introduced some travel companies. They started with a tour operators preferred program scheme, TOPS agent, wherein the 7 8 clients were, and believe me, Mr. Tim, during the pandemic also, the global head used to make sure that UKVI global head used to make sure that he should or she should have a dialogue every 6 months. So we are going with the mask into the embassy. We are sitting in the lawns. We are having beers or the cold drinks in the lawns, but those meetings are happening at the back end, because everybody has to decide that how the things are going to be. So that will happen.
So I think, the obviously a lot of the decisions are being made in the seat of government in Europe, but the facilitation by and large is taking place in India. But one of the things I'm aware of from a UK perspective is that they've onshored, they've brought back to the UK some of the final decision making. And in general, they are being on the progressive side in terms of trying to adopt more digital processes to improve. So before we sort of get into the wider chat, and I'd like to thank Paramjit for his contribution, because I think he agrees with Guldeep that there are some really old perceptions still remaining that people might not have bona fides when they are applying for visas. And in fact, yes, they do. So Guldeep, would you like to just respond to Paramjit's point? I can see your hand is up.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Paramjit. That's what I was actually saying. But the thinking is that they'll go to that country and not return back, which is not there now. I won't say not there anymore. There is a very less percentage now. That's these kind of things happen everywhere in the world. But what you said, and what Nihal's point of view was that the embassies are their perceptive is changing towards Indians, that they are welcoming and all. Let me tell you, I would little differ over there that when it comes to mice movement, you see, we're talking about 300 people altogether. So the perceptive for those 300 people is taken by an embassy is one aspect of looking at 300 people. But when it comes to FIT market, there the total thought process is different. They look at every application with suspicion. That's the thinking which must change. The earlier thought was that they'll go and not come back, which is not the reality now. Although the embassies are welcoming now people with the dialogue. As Nihal said, there is a difference now. They are opening to dialogue. But at the same time, if we look at MICE numbers and we look at FIT numbers, they must be at par. If we keep on looking at only mice and we don't look at the FIT movement, then it will be a mistake. We have to look at it collectively altogether. Then you see, in mice also, if their thought goes against one movement, then 300 people are at risk. But if yeah.
He's differentiating the number of nights would be the same. So the amount of spend is the same. So between the FIT and the groups. So that way.
Nihal, if I may, I think this brings us very neatly into something you raised when we spoke last week, that you have innovated in terms of product development for mice, and we talked about the A-B group, some of whom will travel to Europe and then perhaps stop in Dubai on the way home, and some just go to Dubai. So could you just say a few things about how visa facilitation, in effect, has an impact on product development for your business?
The product development is again the visa part is very important. We as a company generally have an online app. So suppose firstly, if I get any group confirmed for any place all over the world, my people get it registered, because from the client, once the business is allotted to the company, we just put into the Excel sheet, and that Excel sheet is turned into our online app, which will be the online notification, online everything. So which is the backend, my team which is handling all the zones. They divide us into the zones, and then it happens in that particular manner. Suppose if somebody is getting appointment for if we have already spoken to the country, and then we have to we generally, whenever the business is confirmed to a specific country, even the clients go one step further before confirming it and launching those particular product. So they generally speak to the embassy how long, how much in advance we have to give, and how much long my scheme will be running, and how many people tentatively will be coming, but I will be giving the confirmed numbers by so and so. So embassy is also planned, and the client is also planned. After that, what happens that they give us the slot. Suppose there is a group of 300 people, and some 50 people from south, 30 people from east, and so the balance are people from west and the north. So we divide equally, and then their facilitation is with the help of VFS or DVAC or the BLS, whichever the supporting partner is as far the Europe is concerned. So we do that. And otherwise, for the people who are having the online, they just have to put everything, the photograph as well as their passport details in that particular app. My person will be downloading it from the backend, and the visa is applied, and whether it is electronically, like in the cases what Mr. Guldeep has said for the Australia, for New Zealand, whatever it is coming, the long haul countries are going for that e-visa thing. So important part is if we have to provide, because that is the first point of interaction with the client who is actually using those particular services, is the facilitation services. So whenever I am doing, sometimes when the slots are not open, and then you have to have that 10, 12, 15% leverage, which we generally inform if we have already got the dialogue. Otherwise, I'll just tell you, there are very, very smooth operations we have done for Netherlands. I was there in IMAX, attending IMAX at US, and I actually met somebody at the Netherlands stall, and he gave me the connection. They gave me a form that you have to put this, you fill up this form, and then you give it to the embassy. So I got that form filled up from my client. They filled it up. Oh, I'm not going to, nobody has asked this thing. You fill it. Balance part, I am going to do it because there are many formalities which we're supposed to undergo. But you will not believe all the visas came in 3.5 days. They said that your departure is on the 21st November. I'm going to get you all the visas on 18th or the 19th. They gave me the date so that you don't have to run after all and things like that. So that
So
thing, this is
if I've
important.
understood, sorry to interrupt, if I've understood correctly, so in a way, success depends on having a good, well, three things at least, you having a good connection with your clients in terms of information flow and making it easy for them to provide information using an app. Second thing is having a good relationship with the consular authorities of the
Important point.
member state,
Yes, yes, yes.
because they are the ones who will influence the third party, which is VFS or the other technical partner, in terms of the
Yes.
workflow needed to ensure that 3, 4, 500 visas are produced in a short period of time. So it's really a project management exercise which involves yourselves, the consulate, and the third party facilitator to make sure it works.
Yeah, when I joined the trade, my department PCI Corporation used to be projects department. Man, what is this project? Because I come from the IT background. What kind of project? So this is a project thing which we generally take it forward. And coming back to the client, we everybody has got the same relationship with the client. They only look for the who is the most competitive, and they always go for the L1. So that way, but extra knowledge and extra this thing, it helps us in suggesting the destination. So like
Ehal,
we,
I would say you were very lucky that on that trip you met somebody from Netherlands and he gave you that form. Such
that's what.
information are not there on the system.
Yes, yes, that's
You
what
don't
I was
have it.
mentioning specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were lucky. So that's why you you
Hey,
got
I was
through
not
that.
lucky when I applied in the Greece last before that. So that way I was
So, I
very
mean, I
blessed.
think all of us who work in travel know that much of success depends on personal relationships. But I think you're right, Guldeep. It's rather startling to think that had perhaps Nihal met someone who was less obliging, then perhaps it would not have been quite so straightforward. So it was contingent on an individual being enterprising and service-minded.
Absolutely.
Perhaps that was a result of Netherlands policy saying, let's get busy with the Indian market. It's a big opportunity. And just to look at things from a European lens briefly, the Netherlands, in terms of competition, has got something going against it at the moment because the VAT for
Yes.
accommodation is now up to the full rate, so
Yeah.
as well as overnight taxes. So on the cost side, things are getting tougher. So there really is a need for Netherlands in particular, but Europe generally is not a cheap destination. So we do need to lead on service and facilitation to make sure that you can offer the clients the experience you wish. I just want to remind our audience, we've got about 15 minutes left or so, and it would be great if there were further input from the audience. We've got plenty to talk about, but just to remind you that that facility is there. I'd like to just broaden the context slightly, thinking about the EU's visa strategy. It would be wonderful to think that one day in the future, risk-based assessment is much more sophisticated. So this really rather clunky system we have, which essentially declares that an entire country's passport holders should be in the visa requiring category, and entire country's passport holders in a neighboring country, no visa required. And that's the way visa policy has evolved in the last 100 odd years. And that starts to feel very unsophisticated given all the tools we have and all the AI and other IT that can help us and help authorities understand, is this person likely to be a risk and should we look further? Or is this person obviously safe because they've been granted an MEV to America, they've done this, they've done that, they've keep coming home. It's easy to sort of tick the box and say this person's reliable. Maybe this person never traveled before. we need to look a little bit further, but still there can be very rational, risk-based processes. But for now, it still is. Whatever your passport is, it says you're either in the visa requiring or the visa waiver category. One fine day, it would be wonderful if India was visa waiver as far as Europe goes, and you would be having the happy task of telling your clients to get an ETIAS once that comes into place later this year rather than a visa. One of the preconditions for going on visa waiver is that the refusal rate for visa applications is below a certain threshold. And that is one of the biggest determining factors in a country going onto the visa waiver list. From the travel industry perspective, we can point to past examples like Taiwan, for example, when it went to visa waiver status for Europe, the volume increased by 1,000%. Now, that might be an outlier, but it is certainly something to focus the mind if Europe's strategic goal is to grow inbound tourism from emerging markets. So I suppose one of my thoughts, and just thinking about those drinks you're having with diplomats in nice sunny lawns in Delhi, or whenever it is you talk to your counterparts, what can we do as an industry to make it less likely that our clients are being refused? Is it that we need to get the documentary requirement more rational? Because at the moment there's lots of silly excuses to say no, because people haven't found a bank statement or something a little bit relatively trivial, or they can't come up with proof of accommodation. But we all know that proof of accommodation is not a very solid thing, because it's easy to make a booking which can subsequently be cancelled. So the validity of that proof doesn't feel very robust. So do you have any reflections on how, as an industry, we could sort of manage down the refusal rate, either by sort of managing our clients' expectations and preparation better, or by getting Europe to be more rational about the requirements? Or do you have any other reflections? So how can we bring down the refusal rate?
Tim, I think this question probably needs not a webinar, maybe a dialogue for a full day, and we will have many.
Okay. Let's do the 5-minute version. See how we go.
The 5-minute version is that they'll have to segregate. They'll have to segregate. When you get 1,000 applications in a day. I'm just giving just an example. If you get 1,000 applications in a day, there will be about 500 applications who are widely traveled, and they have been to many parts of the world, and other countries trusted them. They have traveled and come back. That is one thing to generalize, that these people should not be looked into like too much of other perspectives. Then there's a category which are lesser traveled, and there are others who are not traveled. Now, people who are first-time travelers definitely needs to be scrutinized by a country, and it's their right to do it. I never take that right away. It's their right. Now, their right is for the first part of the people also. But the first-time traveler, when they look at them, if they look at them that they are also segregated in different parts, like there may be a honeymooner traveling for the first time. Now, he may be from a very affluent family. They can always have their parents or their family's background be given along with the application to assess it. Now, in present scenario, while they refuse the applications or they don't give slots to file the application on time, they are not even accepting any documents which are extra. They say, no, just give us a bank statement or a tax return and we'll assess. How will they assess a person who's traveling for the first time, who's just completed his college and his university, and he has joined business? He has not even filed his tax returns. But he is from a family where he will grow up to be one of the big businessmen in future. So there will be a segregation. There will be different thinking. A thought has to be done, because every country has got a different way the society is living. In India, the society has different segments. Once they segmentize those, it'll be easier that 80% or 70% are in the category which can be looked into from the travel history and other
Maybe
things.
more than
And,
that.
and
Maybe
that
more than that.
segmentation, sorry, Nahal, I'll come to you in a second, but I think that segmentation sounds a very rational approach. How could that be designed in a way that was sufficiently well informed and culturally respectful? Because I
Yeah.
know that when I visited India in the past and spoken to your counterparts about the documentation required, and for example, professional women being required to present a letter of permission from their husband to get a visa for the United States, which even then seemed, exceptionally unusual, and perhaps not very culturally respectful, and it was rather incongruous to be doing that in the 21st century. But I think the point you made there, Guldeep, about a sort of range of discretionary supplementary information, which would be reassuring for people scrutinizing the application. And perhaps, we're a little bit computer says, no, we need to be a bit more, case specific and find a way of being more flexible to allow and encourage that reassurance to speed up the saying yes to most of that 1,000 people. So European countries direct more attention to the first timers, as you were saying, who've perhaps got less immediately reassuring information to provide. So Nihal, sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, that's in continuation to what Mr. Guldeep Sahni was telling. My wife doesn't have my name as a surname because I don't have a surname. So my wife has a different surname. So synchronization of application is very, very important part. Even in the groups, suppose the wife is a housewife and person who is earning on whose bank statements or whose ITR returns, which is the basic thing, the wife is getting the visa, but the husband is not getting. So at that point of time, I still remember, I think it was way back in 2012 or something like that, where Mr. Guldeep Sahni has said that you have to go for the synchronization of the applications. That whenever you are filing, like in Australia as well as in New Zealand, both ways the application form is only one. So in that one form, everybody is filing their application. But again, coming back to the things which UK visa adopted, UK VI which has adopted, like they have synchronized the applications. Suppose it is coming from north, south, or whichever, and plus they were issuing the code. Also, one important part was like suppose a newly married couple has filed the visas, but you will not get any reply, neither on the system nor if you are writing mails or something like that. So they have decided, okay, you are a TOPS agent, tour operators, preferred program scheme agent. I am answerable to you after 9 working days. So that is a very big thing which moved forward, and we were able to solve many, many problems in that particular case. So which was very good. It started from when I think Mr. Param was there in British visit Britain, I think. So at that time, this thing, the flagging of the applications have started, and then they were actually getting what is the problem with this particular visa application. So these are the more, if you're talking and having dialogue more, whether it is a travel company or whether it is a client directly. So, and we, as far as the documentation is concerned, absolutely no. Whoever is going wherever, even if you're going to the smallest country or the biggest country, they follow all documentation. That is the best part of Indian traveler, what they do. Sometimes they come, search into the internet and tell us, oh, this thing has also started now. So whatever they think, the documentation part is always a different, but synchronization of the family application, synchronization with the client, traveling in the same under the same corporate name. Like so, I'm talking about here the channel partners and the groups,
Yes.
things like that. So that way it should be.
Tim, you'll
And
lose out on your time. I'm telling you, this will need a long, long time to
Yes,
develop.
yes, yes. So
it would.
I
I
was
mean, I know when we last spoke, gentlemen, we talked a little bit about how things are a bit different China to Europe because they have the ADS system. So for group travel, there really is an expectation of a sort of coordinated, here is a group's worth of applications. And since much of the travel that ETOA's members deals with is organized in some form or other, so whether it's MICE, whether it's large leisure groups, it feels like at the very least, it would be worth looking at what works China to Europe in terms of speeding up the review of a group's worth of visas. But in the few minutes we have remaining, I think it's I've been busy taking notes, and I can see my colleague Aaron has too. It feels like there is good practice out there. So collectively, we've got some good ideas as to how things can be improved, and it's not going to take regulatory change. It's just going to take a change of mindset. To go back to what Guldeep was talking about at the beginning, it's a much more sort of future-focused approach to, what does good look like? What's the point of a visa facilitation process? This is not granting a privilege to visit. It's actually making sure that we're facilitating visit to Europe. That's the point, and doing it in a way that is consistent with legitimate security concerns. And the risk management can be done in a much more sophisticated way now than in the past. So looking around the world, who gets credit from you for doing a good job? I've heard Australia and New Zealand. Is there anyone else that you would suggest that European countries look to? I've heard the UK being identified as some good practice, also France and Switzerland and others who have really been active with their outreach. But is there anyone you'd like to give credit to for seizing the opportunity and providing a good service?
I will give it to the tourism board. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead now. Go ahead. I speak a lot.
So the tourism board plays a very vital role all over. So in terms of whenever the destination and the specifically visa facilitation services also come, because between the European Union also they have to balance out. Switzerland can't issue all the visas, although whenever they have any facility, or whenever the French embassy have any facility or any counters which are there for the application in the month of May, June and July, because this is a full fight for the main seasons. Now for the MICE it is a full year around. But the thing is, at that time, we don't see any appointments coming in. But again, the tourism boards and everybody has to come forward, because India is rapidly growing. If you look at 2 years back, how many flight arrivals were there into the Europe in any point? Because because if I'm going to any gateway into the Europe, it is 1 hour to go to any other country over there within the Europe. So the gateways have opened very, very vastly, and there is a very big success growth which is now coming into the picture. I think next 3 years should be for the Europe to handle all parts of it. So because I have been part of many other airlines also, where to start, how sorry Tim, now you can go, because I can see the time is now over and we keep
no. I was just going to pick up because it picks up what you said in your first remarks, where it's connectivity as well as visas. So I think Europe, it does sound as though, whether it's through Indigo or others, that their connectivity is improving, and that is all part of the mix for Europe to have a bit of a reset into how it considers where the opportunity lies. We've got 2 minutes left, so I think it's really just time for quick final remarks from Guldeep and Nihal, super quick, and then I'll ask Aaron to put up the last slide again for anyone who wishes to complete our survey. But gentlemen, thank you so much for your expertise, for finding the time to help us explore this issue with our audience. Thanks, Aaron, for making it all happen. So I'll ask Guldeep and then Nihal for some very short final reflections. Then we will show the final slide again with the QR code, and I will say thank you and goodbye from ETOA now. So Guldeep, over to you for final words.
So I won't say too much of thank you, because that's understood. I really thank you for this interaction. But I would just quickly read what I had written about the remaining 2 questions that you could not ask me. That Indian travelers are now evolved. They have high disposable incomes, are grounded well with their professions, and have more opportunities in India. Living standards are high, want to explore more, want to be respected. They want freedom to travel. And Europe is quite confused. They are toggling between over tourism and want of numbers. So I don't know what is they want. They have to get clear about that. From India and the past, drives of Indian to settle in Europe is over now. That was very little, which I've already spoken. For option, Indians have vast options now, especially with the countries which have visa-free countries like Jordan, Oman, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan. They are now pondering over Indian industry to come and take the tourism numbers over there. Even Iran has woken up to this reality. So just to sum up, I went through this quickly. I have whole list of things that I could have said, but I'll write to you about that. And
hopefully there will be another occasion, Guldeep. We're so
Sure.
appreciative of your insight. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Nihal, very quickly.
Yes, more dialogues with the embassy through tourism boards or through your association as well. ETOA, thank you so much. It is a very good platform to put our words into that. So that is fine. More dialogues with the embassies. Thank you.